Welcome to the Point Out Loud Women Trailblazers podcast, your gateway to the inspiring narratives of women at the forefront of change. Join us as we celebrate the strength and resilience of women leaders. In our Women Trailblazers series, we focus on centering women and all the ways we lead together. Centering women means elevating their voice, listening, and focusing on their constraints and challenges so that we can all take action. Proudly affiliated with the UWSP Women Trailblazers Conference, this podcast is a testament to our commitment to gender equity. I'm Lena Matese, co-founder of the UW-Stevens Point Center for Women's Equity, Development, and Leadership. And I am just thrilled to co-host this journey with my friend Serena Vincent, an MBA student embodying the spirit of trailblazing. Together, let's embark on this empowering exploration. Our guest today is Nerissa Nelson, a professor and reference and instruction/foundation collection librarian at UW-Stevens Point. She is one of the 15 members of the state of Wisconsin Women's Council appointed by the governor and legislative leaders. The Women's Council promotes initiatives to empower women, serves as a clearinghouse for information on programs and resources, conducts research on the status of women, and engages in unique partnerships to address barriers and inequities affecting Wisconsin women. When Serena and I were thinking about putting this together, we thought about the words of Liz Wilkie. Liz says, centering women means elevating their voice, listening and focusing on their constraints and challenges so that we can take action to help alleviate those challenges. It's not about making women responsible for solving their problems. It's about joining women, right? Mm-hmm. Elevating women. And I'm so excited to talk with Nerissa about a lifetime of doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So how does your work with the State of Wisconsin Women's Council center women?
So the Women's Council works collectively as we're a 15-member group. And we center women by focusing on initiatives that empower them. We disseminate information on the status of women in the state and foster partnerships to advance women's economic and social equality.
I'm thinking about your whole career. Like, I've read a lot about you. You've led in a lot of different ways. How did that career get you to this prestigious role on the Wisconsin Women's Council?
I've always been, I think, throughout my life, during certain periods, interested in women's rights and doing what we can to advance women. I was pretty active with the Women's and Gender Studies Advisory Council, which still exists on this campus. And I coordinated the program from 2008 to 2011. And that really kind of activated me because I felt that the program, we still have a minor in Women's and Gender Studies, and the program was lacking kind of like an organizational focus and funding. And so we wanted to figure out ways to make that stronger. And so that, I think, was an impetus for me wanting to do more of this work and wanting to do more of it at the state level. I'm pretty personally politically active locally, and I wanted to see what can I possibly do at the state level. And then back in 2018, I discovered the Women's Council at the state level. So that's kind of, I channeled my energies over there to see if there was a possibility of being appointed.
Did you have any experiences as a woman that made you want to advocate for other women?
I don't know that necessarily. I mean, I think all women have certain personal experiences, but I'm in a point in my life where I'm more interested in community care and collective work more than self-care or sort of like self-help. So I feel that collectively trying to work on initiatives that empower women in different ways, that is kind of the work that I'm interested in.
I love that. And, I was recently with Serena. Serena has been part of founding an organization here called Women in Business, a student organization.
That's great. That's how I think I remember you from that conference.
Yeah, I think that's how we met too.
And I think one of the things that the women you're calling together are asking is, how do we collectively gather, right? So you want to be in that same space. I think the women you're leading want to be in that same space that Nerissa does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What are you hearing from women?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many, powerful women that like have voices that they want to use, but I think I know Lena and I yesterday we were talking about kind of opening up those opportunities and spaces to gather as women collectively, gather as leaders. And I know one thing that Lena was saying and asking herself a lot was, where are the women leaders? And a big part of that we talked about was motivation. And what is one thing that really motivates you to continue doing what you're doing?
Anger. I think feeling sometimes that there isn't equality, that people are not at the same level playing field, that it is the year 2024, that I am shocked, especially at my age, that we're still fighting for things that I thought fundamentally would have changed decades ago. And that anger fuels me in a positive way to affect change. I believe in working with women who want to affect change. I have a motto of better living through better policies. And so that kind of work to me is really important. And I think that's why I'm interested in government work. And even campus, I was active with shared governance. So what are the policies that affect the work that we do? Yeah. And so that anger has been channeled into, instead of sitting and moping around, what am I going to do about that, and how can I affect change collectively?
I'm picturing now, I'm seeing this slide of faces in my mind. When I think about every woman I know, she is either outwardly or inwardly angry or has that rage you're talking about.
Yeah. And there's ways to funnel that rage or anger. And like I said, if you can let it manifest in a way that can be destructive or not helpful, or you can take that kind of energy from that and try to figure out ways to make and affect change. Yeah. And so I think that's important.
Love this passion that you have for structure. Most people don't see structure, Nerissa.
Structure is the key that is kind of the key of the work that we do as a council too. So changing structures and oppressions for women is critical. Otherwise, it is not going to affect change.
What are you doing as a council to shift structures for greater equity, greater equality?
Sure. So we have a number of initiatives. We have a number of, we're limited, we're a statutory committee. So we have some limitations. We can't, change laws and do things like that. But collectively, and there are powerful women on that committee. And I just to backtrack for a moment, I feel grateful to be a part of this group. The lieutenant governor is on this council. It's an amazing group of women. And I think that we're all interested in affecting change by the work we do through, again, initiatives. We do a lot of partnership collaborations. We have one coming up soon on missing and murdered Indigenous women. That happens in May. So we partner with certain groups to bring awareness sometimes. We also work a lot on statistics. This is, for example, a report that we work with Alverno College, Women in Public Life, elected officials. We've been tracking women in elected positions in the state back since 2005. And so, looking to see where are we in the equity of elected officials, how is it look in the state, at the county level, at the city level, and if we see gaps in there, what can we possibly maybe do to affect change there? And how can we get women more interested in maybe taking an official elected seat, position of political power, which is hard for women especially. I recall your student organization is fairly large. Don't you have a number of members involved?
Yeah, give us a number.
Yeah, so I guess, in 2022, within the first 3 months, we gained 70 members.
Okay,
and
that's
we're currently, I know, it's great. We're currently over 115 members.
Wow. So when you meet as a group, what are some of the focus points or agendas, or what do you talk about? That's a large group. So are there certain things that group is looking for when you talk about being enmeshed in our campus, and how can they start integrating with meeting more women, but in what capacity, like in what sense?
Yeah, so every month we try to get a woman professional, a woman of insight into our meeting.
Okay.
We usually have kind of a topic, a theme of the meeting, whether that's mentorship, whether that's interview help, something along those lines. We had one, I'm just trying to think of what it was called. We had one recently about allyship.
Okay.
We had one recently about kind of dealing with harassment in the workforce as a woman, which obviously, it's really hard topic to talk about, but starting, talking about that early and really getting uncomfortable with the conversation from the start, really makes it more comfortable for these women to see, the realities walking into the world and kind of opening it up to that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps a lot. I think one way to get involved for students is we are a public council, and anybody can attend our meetings, and just kind of getting a feel for what is on the agenda and what people are discussing. I can give you a couple of topics that have been really critical. Childcare is a huge issue right now throughout the United States. It is critical in Wisconsin. It has a cascading effect of if there is a childcare vacuum in certain, especially rural communities in Wisconsin, it can decimate. Families will move. It changes the economic position of a community. So those are kind of critical issues that we talk about. In terms of business, if you look at the Women's Council website, under initiatives, we have some things about business ownership and women-led businesses. So, looking at what is happening with business ownership and women, again, we have some data tracking, like how many women-owned businesses are there in the state of Wisconsin. So from that perspective, that's one initiative. Again, childcare would be another initiative that we're looking at because it's critical need. Elected officials. One of the things about elected officials, some women experience bullying, and oftentimes the anger directed at women in elected positions is personal. It's not issue-based. And that's a concern because we want more women in elected office. And if that is the atmosphere, it's going to be harder to get women interested in considering that if there's a bullying effect to that. And so those are some of the things that we talk about and the collaborations that we do. We also just recently worked with a Hmong project that was really great. And we do things related to healthcare and women, like heart-healthy healthcare, which I didn't even know was, that is a huge thing for the state of Wisconsin, which I didn't realize, especially for underrepresented groups. For example, the Hmong community, a lot of women have issues related to heart health, and they don't know the avenues and how to get that care. There's also a culture of maybe not wanting to discuss that, especially with a white doctor. So figuring out what some of those barriers are and how we can overcome those barriers or shift those barriers so there's access, so women have access to that type of care. So that was a recent program that we did a couple years ago. Sometimes things that I am surprised that, I was like, I had no idea that. Yeah. So I learned things while I'm on the council about that too. Yeah. But I think going back to your original question, attending a meeting, getting a little feel for the Women's Council, we do things, again, there are partnership opportunities, there's advocacy and outreach, and research collaboration. And building those networks is really critical.
I think what our first step, if we want to get involved in the work, this powerful work of the Wisconsin Women's Council, is to join you at a meeting, right? Meetings are public.
Meetings are public.
So we look that up on the website and we come.
Yep.
And then when we get there, we start listening for something that we care about or something, and I loved your word, surprises us. Right? Something that surprises us. And so we might be surprised about the state of heart health, right? We might be surprised about the state of childcare. What you were, I guess I'm not surprised, but I am deeply saddened by the bullying that our elected officials, and so one of our women elected officials, one of the things that came up for me while you were talking is how do we run for office, but how do we get alongside the women who are in office?
So again, this is not part of my women's council work, but just on the personal level, since I've been involved in helping people maybe with campaigns and just observing what people go through. And that's not to say that every single woman in elected office is bullied, but there is a majority, I would say, of them who are. And I think the way to get involved, I think supporting each other is really crucial. And supporting the work that public officials do, because again, they affect the policies. Those policies affect our everyday life. And so you have to be, I just think everybody has to be involved in that work. Yeah. And I think ways to get there are at the local level, school board, running for school board. That may sound really boring, but there are critical issues that happen at that level. I think you understand and learn the structures of government, what an elected official does. You're kind of in the public eye. I think looking at what's happening at city council, at the county level, those are kind of the ways to get involved. Working as like a legislative liaison, sort of understanding, or as a staffer or a lobbyist, to understand what is that work. And again, I'm a big policy person. I care a lot about policy because I think, again, policy affects our everyday life, and we have the power to change policy. Yeah. And that, I think, is critical.
Thanks for being the rare leader who sees that. Serena, I know you want to ask about hope. I want to put out a call to action to all of our listeners today. If you are steady, if you are methodical and analytical, if you like setting a high standard or setting a good standard, if you're concerned about effectiveness, you want to talk to Nerissa Nelson about policy. You want to catch her excitement, because that's a place that you can show up and make a difference.
I love that work. I mean, if I could go back, being a policy analyst would be something I'd be interested in. And even in the library field, I was an information analyst for a while for a couple of corporations. And I like that work because, again, it has the potential to affect change.
So when you think about women and our role in society, what gives you the most hope?
That's a good question, a big question.
Yes,
So I'm just going to kind of backtrack a little bit and just talk about how, women have fought a long time against being treated as second-class citizens. Despite gaining the right to vote nearly a century ago, achieving gender parity, again, in elected office and civic life remains an ongoing challenge. I think that this struggle is even more pronounced for Black and Indigenous women. If you think about the Voting Rights Act that just happened in 1965, that wasn't all that long ago. So that's just an example of how women have had to rise up, speaking out for gender equality and equity, still fighting for equal pay, equal access to all parts of society, and also bodily autonomy. So those are things that we're still working on. Things that give me hope, the younger generation. And I'll be more specific about that. I think that the younger generation, when you think about gender, views of gender, they are more expansively looked at. And many young people, I think, don't want to be pigeonholed by gender or even sort of like societal expectations. I think that progress in that way is not easy. But I think a lot of people have made a lot of progress in that area. I think it's kind of exciting, and that it'll be interesting to see what the future holds. So from that perspective of the younger generation and gender, I think it's great. Women who affect change, policymakers, policy analysts, people who are willing to fight and continue to fight. And sometimes that fighting can be exhausting. And people have ebbs and flows when they're fighting for certain things that they really care about. You can be really, really, really in it, and it can really drain you. And sometimes you may need to step out for a moment and go back in. But those women that have been fighting for decades to try to affect change, I admire them. They don't stop, and they keep going, and they care, again, about community care, and the world. And community care, that's my third one, speaking of which. So again, just a little bit, those who are working on changing systems and are part of community care, that includes like the social constructs, bias, misogyny, sexism, institutional glass ceilings. So those are the things that I think are important to care about. Again, just this is personal. This has nothing to do with my work, but personally, I'm less interested in sort of what I call maybe the personal cheerleading culture. I think that's fine. Like self-help, self-care is great. I think it's important for you to feel good about yourself. I don't think that I want more people in that area to get out and to think about how can I affect change on a larger level. What can I do? Okay, I'll take care of myself, but I want to affect change for everybody and not just for me as an individual. That type of work, I'm not, again, personally interested in. I don't think it addresses systemic issues that are concerning.
Listen well, friends. I'm going to try to capture this because it is so powerful, and we so appreciate your voice in saying this out loud to us. And so Nerissa says, if you want to change the world, don't get stuck in yourself. There's a whole bunch of not yets that we haven't gotten to. And we can't let the not yets bog us down, and we can't let the pain of the not yets bog us down. We can't let the things that personally keep us stuck. We can't let any of that bog us down because we have to be warriors. We have to be warriors for policy. We have to be warriors for care. Did I get that right?
You did. And again, the anger, it's okay to be angry and go sit in your room and curse and drink a beer and take a moment. Just don't let it be self-destructive to the point where you don't come out of that and affect change. I mean, again, that's the episode. It's human nature to feel that way. But when you allow that to affect, when you allow that to become individualized and say, I can't enter the world right now because I need to take care of myself. I'm going to do this and this and this. It is a form of sort of disengaging in my mind. And that doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself, but you need to figure out a way and a mechanism to move forward and to think about the world around you and how are you going to make changes and make the world a better place for everybody, and not just for you, and especially for the people that don't have a voice. And I'm always shocked that we're still dealing with that, but we are.
So I agree. Let's pay attention to the greater good. Go watch Bad River. It talks about a very brief section there where it talks about the horribly underreported disaster of what I think of in my heart as disappeared women, right? Disappeared women in our indigenous communities. You'll be shocked by what is happening there. And thank you for reminding us of that of us. So I'm hearing you say, I've got the title for this talk. For me, it's take a walk with your anger. Pay attention to it. Ask it what it wants you to do. But I want to know what your one thing is. Both Serena and I do. Ending. What's your one thing you want to do to unleash women?
That's a hard question to answer. One thing. And I actually would probably reframe that question a little bit to think more about how to advance women's empowerment. And so, again, it's really hard for me to think of one thing. I really love the UN Women group and website.
Yeah,
I think they have
we'll link to that.
Amazing things on there. Again, advocating for laws and policies that support women and challenge discrimination. I mean, would be one of like 80 things that I think I care about. I wish we lived in a world that everybody had at least the grounding of an equal access to life, and we don't have that. The disparities are huge and detrimental. Look at what's happening in the news and in the world today. It's just mind-boggling and shocking that again, I can't even believe that we're going through some of the things that we're going through. It's horrifying. And so those are the things that I think we need to continue to keep working on. And we can do that at the local level. You feel like you're not affecting change, but that's where it starts. And so what is it that we don't have in our community that we need to change?
All right, look around, friends. We're going to wrap up today, but pay attention to what makes you angry. Look deeper than self. Pay attention to the structures. Any parting wisdom for us? Any one other sentence you want to say as we go?
I still go by my motto of better living through better policies. That to me is critical. And do what you can to affect change for the better of everybody.
Nerissa Nelson, we are so thankful that you joined us today.
Thank you so much. This was exciting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we love your power.
Thank you.
Your voice. We're going to keep following you.
My nasal Chicago voice. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of the Point Out Loud Women Trailblazers podcast. We hope the stories and insights shared today have inspired you to embrace your own leadership journey and uplift the voices of women around you. This episode was produced by Lee Vaughter, campus videographer, Logan Bidon, senior media studies student, and Brittany Kaminsky, marketing and creative services. Discover more about all Point Out Loud podcasts by visiting uwsp.edu/podcast. Join us next time for more captivating conversations and compelling narratives. Until then, keep blazing trails and amplifying the power of women everywhere.